Clarice's bridesmaids, each holding a little...
This is an 11-year-old Anna Paquin, and the movie is The Piano. Her supporting role here achieves something that dozens of A-list actors still haven't been able to. Actors like Angela Bassett, Rosario Dawson, Helena Bonham Carter, Samuel L. Jackson, Johnny Depp, and Ralph Fiennes. She won an Oscar for this role. Anna Paquin, who famously played Rogue in Bryan Singer's X-Men series, also acted in the HBO series True Blood. What's also incredible is she also won a Golden Globe for her performance on there as well. We all wish we could pick up a craft and instantly be a prodigy at it. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way for most of us. But here are some tricks that can help you learn something faster. If you're trying to pick up a new skill or want to learn something to improve your life, it's gonna take effort. That's because our body is comfortable with stasis. It doesn't like change. Unfortunately, learning and improving is a change. But here are some tricks that can help you learn something faster. Now, a lot of these are based off the book Brain Rules by John Medina, where he gives us concrete examples on what to do to help us remember and think better. I use some of these tricks to get through my schooling and get my doctorate degree, specifically trying to remember names of drugs that are really long, really complicated, and almost mean nothing. Like this, or maybe even this. We're gonna start with some basic techniques at the beginning, and then talk about more complicated ones at the end. Some of these can have drastic effects on our thinking and memory, and others are gonna be very unique to specific people. There are people who have specific neurons in their brain that fire off for only one stimulus. There's a study that found that with one patient, his brain would fire off a specific neuron when a picture of Jennifer Aniston would show up. And that neuron was called the Jennifer Aniston neuron. And it didn't really matter what image was shown to him, because only the image of Jennifer Aniston would fire that specific neuron. In addition, genetics play a huge factor. People who are genetically female, as in born without a Y chromosome, activate the left hemisphere of their amygdala far more. What this means is they have far more emotional details in their memory, whereas other people with Y chromosomes at birth activate the right hemisphere of their amygdala. And what happens there is they get the gist of the information more than the emotional details. What these two examples show us is that people are very unique in how their brain functions. You have to optimize for how you specifically think, but that means you have to know how you think in order to understand it. Take note of when you are skillfully remembering or thinking of something, and how you came about it, because that's the key to your specific map of your brain. Now, the first tip that can help your thinking and memory is to use music. There was a study long ago that found classical music helped enhance thinking. It's so prevalent now that we associate classical music with intelligent thinking. Unfortunately, the study was debunked, but there's some very powerful aspects of music with intelligent thinking and memory. Formal music training has been shown to improve cognition. Specifically, what it does is it helps us associate different things and connect them. In addition, the emotional factor of music has a huge role in our memory. Music can affect cortisol, oxytocin, and dopamine, which means that music can affect our emotional state. If there's a song that motivates you or makes you feel uplifted, remember it and put it on a playlist, because that song speaks to you better than other songs do. How many of you have had a song very strongly associate with a relationship or a person? The use of music can help influence your memory and help you learn better. Now, the encoding of the memory is also important. One factor is how do we remember things. There's a state we have where we encode our memories, and the closer we are to that state when we recall, the easier it is to remember. There's stimulus in the encoding phase of memory that we want to use in order to help us recall things better. The way I used it in school was that whenever I'd take an exam, I'd try to study in the same room that the exam was. If not, I'd try to study in the library, where the conditions are fairly similar. Both of them have very similar environments. They're both quiet, minimal noise, very uncomfortable seating, and limited stimuli. Using the same stimulus that you had in the memory encoding as the recall will help you remember things and recall them better. The next technique that can help you learn things quickly is to space out your repetition and gradually add things. Our brains aren't hard drives. We can't slam all the information in at once. That's why when we have to cram, we do very poorly. It's a lot better to space that information out and gradually incorporate new. The way I used this was I used flashcards to try to remember things. And each time I remembered something new, I added a new element. And once I remembered something, I pulled it out of the list of rotation. You can gradually remember things and space them out by testing yourself using flashcards. The next mind trick you could use to learn things quickly is to get some exercise. Physical exercise helps provide nutrients to our body. It circulates the blood carrying oxygen, hemoglobin, and other nutrients. I'm not saying that in the middle of your studies, go to the gym for an hour. But what I am saying is doing 10 push-ups, jumping jacks, or going for a brief walk can help you a lot in learning things quickly. Being stagnant lowers our ability to learn. There have been many geniuses that have gone for a walk to help them think clearly. Some of them include Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, and Stephen Hawking. The fifth mind trick to help you learn faster is to simply get some sleep. A good night's rest can help clear up the brain fog that we have. During the day, our brain builds up waste called amyloids, and sleep helps remove that. Over time, those amyloids can build up and contribute strongly to Alzheimer's and dementia. Sleep helps us clear some of that. If you're studying for a long time, you may develop brain fog because your brain has been functioning overtime. A little bit of sleep, even a short nap, can help you a lot in thinking and learning quickly. I've had nights where I had to stay up late and cram, but unfortunately it's hard to think clearly when there's all that fog in my mind. Sometimes a brief shut-eye of 5 to 10 minutes helps tremendously. The next technique to learn faster is to minimize stress. Stress reduces cognition. Stress is an emotional component, and if it's too strong, our logic system can't think clearly. I messed up on this a lot when I was in school. I would always stress out, and my mind blanks out. Because of that, I focus on the small details instead of the broad stroke big picture. If I'd learned how to meditate or quiet my mind, it would have helped me tremendously in my studies, specifically in my exams. The next tip to help you learn anything faster is to not multitask. The human brain is only capable of focusing on one subject efficiently before switching to the next one. As it switches, not only does it take effort to make the switch, but there's also an operational drag. Your brain still has a little bit of its focus still on the previous subject. After many switches, your brain starts losing productivity. People who say they're good multitaskers are actually not fully focused on both tasks. Sometimes that's okay if you're doing something that requires minimal attention. But if you want to learn two things quickly, it's best to focus on one at a time. The next trick to learning things quickly is to use sensory integration. Our brains are good at mapping memories, but they're enhanced when there are other sensory inputs. For example, have you ever had a song or smell that took you back to a specific relationship? If you want to learn something faster and imprint that memory in your head, you could use your additional senses to help you, like sounds, smells, or taste that help you incorporate and enhance that memory. The eighth mind trick to help you learn something faster is to use visual cues. Our sight takes up a lot of our thinking. We rely on it for survival. That's why it's so prioritized. If you want to learn something quickly or memorize it easier, try using some visual cues with it. Let's say you want to remember a shopping list. Computer, what's on my shopping list? Let's say I wanted to remember a shopping list of brown rice, ice, banana, and bread. I would imagine that the rice is sprinkled over the banana, and then I put it in between a sandwich. But then it's on a bed of ice, so it melts, and the ice soaks up into the bread and makes it soggy. That visual representation helps me memorize my shopping list a lot easier than if I just memorized a list. If your emotional brain is taking control of you, specifically anger, you want to try the Emotional RX program, where I take you by the hand and provide you specific tools to help de-escalate your anger. A lot of people struggle with rage, and it's that rage that makes them make decisions they regret. If you want to take control of your anger quickly and immediately, check out the link down below. And if you want to try a free 10-day challenge on skills that can specifically help you be happier, check out the link below and sign up for a free 10-day challenge. The next memory technique that can help you learn quickly is to use a memory palace. A memory palace was divided thousands of years ago, where people used a focal point to help remember things. A memory palace uses a building that's recognizable to you and maps out specific things in that building. Now the way you do it is, let's say you imagine a place that you're very familiar with, like your old childhood home, and you want to remember things that you need to go shopping with. So let's go back to that shopping list. If I wanted to remember bread, ice, banana, and brown rice, I would put bread at the front door, and then I'd fill the bathroom up with rice. And then the kitchen would be filled with nothing but ice. And on the roof, I'd have bananas, with monkeys holding onto the bananas and jumping around, trying to damage the roof. This memory palace helps me remember things much more efficiently because I use a visual cue and a spatial map. I actually had to do this a lot in school when I was trying to remember all the names of the medications that fought infections. There were almost hundreds of infections and medications with names that are incredibly elaborate. It's tough to remember them all, so you had to use any tricks you could. Now, a bonus trick that can help you learn things faster is to use acronyms. I've seen a lot of people use acronyms to help remember things. Sometimes it gets confusing, but if you use a very unique acronym, you can easily remember things. One thing one of my professors taught me was that if you use a kinkier mnemonic device, it's gonna be easily remembered by you and others. It might not be appropriate, but at least you remembered and you learned it. Mind trick that can help you learn things quickly is to delude yourself. If everything in life is from your personal perspective, sometimes what's in your mind and what's real are very different. If that's the case, why not use it to your advantage? Here's a great example, is that Michael Jordan had a chip on his shoulder for everybody who talked shit about him. Sometimes it would be over minor things.
It became personal with me.
And a lot of people consider this to be psychotic, but that drive pushed him to an extreme level. It made him a champion for an extended period of time. Now, if you could delude yourself using motivation that's positive and reinforcing, or sometimes negative, it might help you learn things a lot faster because you have that emotional component built in now, and you're taking advantage of it. There are a few huge risks though, is that one, you might actually be crazy. You might delude yourself over the long term, and it might be destructive to the relationships around you. Or you also have to be willing to risk the sacrifice of that specific relationship you're targeting. A lot of people use their anger to drive them, but they're also risking that relationship. The way you feel about something gets enhanced the more you think about it in a negative aspect or in a positive aspect. You get to choose. The brain is like a muscle. It takes practice to get it stronger. One of the key ways to learning faster is to continue learning new things. You want to continually ask yourself, what's something new you want to learn, or a skill you want to flex more? Not only will this help you learn new skills, but it'll help you learn them quickly.
So maybe you're not as naturally gifted as Anna Paquin, but that doesn't mean you can't learn new skills.
And that's one of the great challenges of life, is to gain new skills and improve yourself so you can become better. I'm Dr. Tank. Never give up on yourself.